Yeah, this is the one, correct. Okay, so regarding the structures, digital representation, as I told you, I showed you some of the examples earlier. Now, this is about how do we communicate structural information between the humans and the computer. So normally, I know many of you would have been drawing, publishing papers or writing thesis, you would have drawn structures. In olden days, of course, we have to use typewriters and use it by drawing by hand and then take a copy and then paste it. I have seen that thesis also. But later we can see we have ChemSketch or ChemDraw, all these programs to draw your structures and then paste it or take a picture and put it there in a Word document or LaTeX. So line notation or bitwise line notations is the name that is given for whatever that prolin is being shown in the slide. Or later called as a smiles also. Smiles will be just alphabetic representations without hydrogens. How do we represent atom and bonds in a molecule internally in a computer? It is based upon atom lookup and connection tables. So based on these two techniques, they are being understood. So wherever the joins are coming, it's understood that it is carbon. And based upon the valency, there is only two valencies being satisfied. How about the balance two? It's self-explanatory and it is understood that they too are hydrogens. The hydrogens usually, the explicit hydrogens usually do not display on a 2D structure to look the structure much better. If you look at the trivial or traditional name, it's prolin, but when you look at IUPAC or systematic name, it is pyrrolidine 2-carboxylic acid. So this is how you represent, and certain packages understands the traditional name, certain packages understands IUPAC name, certain packages, they don't understand both, they just understand what I'm showing you here, the smiles. And otherwise, they will specifically understand these file formats. For example, mol file can contain one single structure in a file. Mol2 file can contain more than one structure in a single file. So you can have multiple chemical structures in a single file. SD-SDF file, they also contain more than one structure in a single file, but they can also contain numerical, alphanumerical data of your structures, including molecular weight, physicochemical properties, and many others. So this SDF file will look like an Excel sheet. Each of your row will represent your structures. Each of the column will represent the different properties. And then you have PDB. PDB is called Protein Data Bank, where all your protein structures are stored in PDB format. Then you have SKC, CDX, and MRV, which is all proprietary file formats, which is not human readable, as you can see here in the picture at the bottom. You cannot read what is this. It is some special characters, 3D, OF, and all. Nothing we know. But on the top, you can see that's a PDB structure. You can see it as carbon. You can see X, Y, Z coordinates, and also the charges and positions. So smiles, for the same structure, it is just 4 carbons being hydrogens are not represented, self-explanatory. So this is how you fetch in the structures into the computers or even onto the software. Now for that, as I told you, there are different file formats available. As I told you, smiles, SDF, then mol2, many file formats. Now, how one can think about converting file formats, because some software uses, ChemDraw uses CDX. I want to convert CDX to SDF. How do I do that? So you have a free package called as OpenBabel. OpenBabel will help you to convert multiple chemical formats to other formats, as well as it can do 2D to 3D conversion. So 2D structures means it will have x-axis and y-axis coordinates. I mean, x and y coordinates. But when you go for 3D structure, you have x, y, and z coordinates. And and also OpenBabel helps in generation of confirmation. It can do confirmation analysis as well as energy minimization, RMSD calculations. Those things can be carried out using OpenBabel. So OpenBabel is a freely available tool, mostly used for chemistry, chemical structure enumeration, file format conversion, and minimizations. Now, when you search online databases, for example, PubChem, you want to go and search if the database, if you can find some structures which you have already planning to synthesize. So then you have different file format structures. One is that you can do a substructure search, another is superstructure, then full structure, duplicate, and similarity. Most of the time we do similarity structure. So similarity means overall we are trying to see whether we could achieve a particular percentage of similarity. But substructure means a particular region of the compound is being looked at to see whether they are any identical structure to test if the target contains the query. That's it. So substructure is for a specific region of the compound. Similarity is for overall compound. And coming to duplicate, we are exactly trying to find out the exact match. That is called duplicate. But then we have fragments and many others. So this just a picture tells you that, I mean, the table tells you that how to categorize your different kinds of 2D chemical searching. This is very important when you're trying to identify your key structures from the databases, right? So do you have any questions before I move forward? So that I can now go to the software part. So whatever the input that I have now chosen, so whatever for the software that I'm going to choose an input now, this is all have come from these basic things. So that's why I was trying to tell you, uh, yeah, that's why I was trying to tell you that we need to understand from where we can get the data. So all these, I can get the data from these databases, or I can start preparing the data myself because I know some structures are already well established. So I will try to create my own scaffold and try to explore new derivatives and other things. Okay, is that clear? Is there any clarifications required in that area? Hope you understood how we require an input file of the chemical structures. Oh, great. Okay, I could see only one or two responding. So if I want a majority, if all of you tell only, I can understand. Anyway, I'm moving forward. So here what I have done is I have loaded a structure, I mean a file, SDF file, just with structure. I'll show you which all, yeah. I just loaded a SDF file just with these many data. I loaded my structure, yes, and then these are the 2D structures I have loaded. You can even load 3D, but we will show only 2D here. And then we can give an ID here, a name or some number for your structure, and it's predicted biological activity data, that is PKI, which is being given. So I have around 124 compounds. At the bottom, you can see I already told you a rule of thumb. All the rows represents the compounds, right? So 124 compounds I have, okay? And now let me delete few data so that I will try to calculate when I am trying to present the details. So just let me delete this data. Okay. Right. These are all toxicity data. I'll be showing you all. Okay, great. Now, so keep in mind, we are going to do a analysis to understand among these 124 compounds, which all are compounds I can choose for the next level of studies and which all the compounds I could remove from my dataset. Morning, you remember, I was mentioning in silico studies or computation studies mainly also used to remove your bad molecules. That is also a very important task. Not to just choose the best molecule and move forward. It will never work. Right? So what we can do here is, let me try to sort this compounds. So I can see here the distribution automatically when I just selected on, by the way, sorry, I didn't mention that. If you think that you wanted to evaluate this software later, of course, you can try reaching out to Sucharita madam. So she will be able to let us know and we can arrange that. So Yeah, so when I just selected on a statistical analysis, I could see there are around just one compound which is between 2 and 4, but greater than 8, I could see only two compounds which is coming into the PKI estimates, right? And if I'm going for this one between 6 and 8, I can see 93 compounds are there. Now, if I select this, automatically the rows are getting selected. Whichever compounds are within that between 6 and 8 all get selected automatically. So it is very much interactive, the graph and others. Now, let's try to do this. We will sort based upon descending because I want to know the best predicted biologically active compound. As you can see here, 8.142. That is my compound row 731. That is my compound which is showing a better biological activity. So hope you remember today morning I was telling you about the funnel type, right? So let us see whether this is really these are the hit molecules. Now I want to see whether when can I call or which compound I could call it as lead molecules. So keep that in mind. I have row 3, row 731 as the compounds which are good with these biological activity. Now I will go to my models. I will predict all the ADME properties. So I was telling you in the presentation also, I will be able to predict blood-brain barrier, 2D6PP, PGP, PPV90, HERG, and many others. Including I could calculate also other simple properties like molecular weight, hydrogen bond, donor, acceptor, everything. This I will come to that later. Then we have some custom models where we have, for example, if you're looking at skin permeability, CACO models, or detention time, COVADS for flavors, or if you're going for PGP inhibitor, and also if you're going to look at pains count or retention factor, all these models also can be predicted. These are all from literature. These are all taken from the data. So we basically look at all these values again taken from different literature. So let me give you a heads up on that. If you go to the help menu and if you go to the reference guide is something different from user guide. Reference guide is a scientific document which talks about a lot more about which data set is being used to generate the models. Yeah, it has loaded. I hope you can see it. So if you go through the literature data, okay, let me go through here, models, descriptor, validation. Yeah, let me go further down. Yeah. So for each of the modules, they have explained the scientific part of each of these applications and others. So let me go to this model references, ADME model references. So this is what they have used. So each of these models are being predicted, right? And then they are able to tell you what is the accuracy level for each of these models, which is used in the software. This is what I was telling you in the morning. Unless you know what is the class of compounds used in the training set, you cannot believe on any data that is predicted by a tool. That is a common question I used to get from many people. Sir, for the same compound, if I try to predict ADME properties using different tools, I always get different answers. Which one to believe? Should I believe the highly paid software or should I believe the freely available software? The only answer is that whichever software is talking about applicability domain or whichever software is talking about standard deviation or the error value, that software you have to believe. That doesn't mean that the models are good. No, that does tell you whether you have to rely on that prediction or not. Don't think that a single model will work for every structures in this world. Never possible. Ever, never. Every year they have to improve the models, then only the coverage will increase. So now if you see here, we have neutral compounds, acidic, monobasic, polybasic, phenolic, and citroionic compounds. All these types of chemotype of compounds are used in the training set to predict log S. Similarly, we have certain other molecules also, acid-base citrions, different kinds of amides, then acid function, different functionalities are being given, basic functionalities are also given. So if your compounds are fitting into any of these compounds, the reliability of the prediction will be much better when compared to others. So you need to have a better understanding what kind of chemical structures or chemical class of compounds have been used in the trading set. Now, if someone is saying that no, that is confidential, we cannot share, then don't believe that result, because how can you believe? I developed a software and I'm telling this is the best software in this world. Okay, and if you believe it, then we are not scientists, because scientists always ask a question: why it is best in this world? We have to understand ourselves, right? So I cannot say that all the QSA models can be applied everywhere. So you have to understand what kind of or what type of chemotypes are available, and then that's where you have to consider the molecules or the models. Now we will come to that much more closer. So I have you selected all these models. I click the button here, the blue button here, so that it will calculate all the models using structure activity relationship. Great. Oh, by the way, this software doesn't require any highly sophisticated computers, not required. A normal laptop is also fine. I'm running it on a laptop, so normal laptops are absolutely fine. It works on Windows, Mac, it works. And then we have tested up to 7 million compounds getting loaded to this table. Absolutely fine. So yeah, so computer requirements is not much a great challenge here. So I predicted a lot of properties here, but we will analyze them, because I told you in the morning also, just predicting the property and reporting the property in the paper does not have any value. The value comes when you do some kind of data analysis, right? So I'm sure you will be the experts to do the statistical analysis, being you have already teaching and learned about all statistical analysis. Now let's do a small analysis here. Okay, so going to the design and going down, yeah. So I could see the solubility here, aqueous solubility. Okay, aqueous solubility is log S. For this particular compound, I could see this region is actually negatively contributing to solubility. Right. Let us see Hurg liability. Where is Hurg? Yeah. Hurg is a cardiotoxicity, right? Hurg enzyme. So here also we could see these are negatively impacting, but these regions and all are positively impacting. But let's imagine I cannot simply change everywhere, right? Because activity is also something major concern. So I will try to think of replacing these two methyl groups to something else based upon the synthetic feasibility. So what I will do is I'll try to convert this methyl group to hydroxy group. Now let's see if there is some difference, because the earlier value for when it was 2-methyl group, it was 5.66. Now let's see how the data has changed. Why it is taking so much of time? Because I've used a lot of properties to predict. So when I make a single change, it has to predict all the values. So that's why it is taking, otherwise usually it doesn't take this much time. Yeah. So after changing it to oxygen, that is hydroxyl group, I could see the Hurg has reduced from 5.6 to 5.2. Let me make this a keto group. Okay, I made a keto group here. It is running. Still, it is the same, not much difference. Now, let me make both the methyl group to convert to carboxylic acid group. Okay, so I'll just make hydroxyl here. And let me see how it is calculated. Oh, drastically reduced. It is 4.032. So two methyl groups I replaced with a carboxylic acid group. I could see the hErg has reduced without much affecting the solubility also, right? And I'm sure when I'm making removing two methyl group and making a carboxy, the affinity could have been increased also. We have to see anyway to a specific target, but and a normal assumption we think it should have increased. Only thing the neighboring oxygens might have clashes that we have to look at. But this is what we are trying to understand by just looking at the structures and its pharmacokinetic properties. How could we optimize the structure? So this is a manual mode. Based upon your expertise, you can make changes if required. Then we can also go with the automated mode, which we will go into detail now. Another thing is that if I'm going for scoring, which I told you, multi-parameter optimization. By the way, if you have any doubts, please stop me in between. If I'm too fast, please tell me. If you keep quiet, I don't know. Yes, someone has raised hands. If you want to ask some questions, please go ahead. Rajashekhar, Rajashekhar sir, do you have any questions? I could see you have raised your hand. No? Okay. So we wanted to analyze and select which are the key properties that we have to consider in order to make the rankings. I told you in the morning, we can even use Lipinski rule of 5. But in the Lipinski rule of 5, less than 500 is the actual rule. But I can make a new rule saying that anything that is up to 500, I will say as my score as 1. And if my molecular weight is greater than 500, I will give a score as 0.5. So that tells me that I'm not completely neglecting the compound. Even if the molecular weight is greater than 500, I still consider them. So let's do this analysis first. So I want to do a Lipinski rule of 5. The same rule is being set. I'm just running it. That's okay, because hydrogen bond donor, hydrogen bond acceptor, and molecular weight will not have any standard deviation because they are not derived from any models, but they are exactly extracted from the structure. So we don't have a standard deviation. That's what this warning is coming, uncertainty. That's okay. Now we gave, so let us wait for the results. Yes. Now, most of the compounds are having the score as 1. 1 means it is satisfying Lipinski rule. But let's see if there is some other compounds which is not going along with the Lipinski rule of 5. No, all the compounds are going with the Lipinski rule of 5, right? So I don't have an example to show you that it is not going with Lipinski rule. So here all the compounds are going along with it's satisfying Lipinski rule of 5. Okay. Now let's go to the next analysis. I wanted to look at oral non-CNS scoring profile. In the scoring profile, I can consider experimental as well as predicted values. That is the beauty here. So you can consider both predicted as well as experimental data in order to do multi-parameter optimization. So for the PKI estimate, I have taken from the activity data, then log S HIA, that is aqueous solubility, human intestinal absorption, partition coefficient, cardiotoxicity, 2D6, 2C9, P450 isoforms, PGP and PPB, and blood-brain barrier. These are all predicted from the package. Now, we all, from the literature, we understood that this should be the desired value. Any compound greater than 7, any compound having greater than 1 as aqueous solubility is acceptable. If it is absorbable, then it is acceptable. Blood-brain barrier should be negative because I'm looking for a oral non-CNS drug. So I don't want to go for blood-brain barrier. So it should be negative, right? The barrier should be negative. Now, the next part is that where I'm defining the importance. I'm going to prioritize which is my scoring confidence. I'm saying any compound which is having the activity data up to 7, I'm going to give a score of 0.05 because it's not of great importance. Still, I'm giving them because to consider them. Any compound which is having activity greater than 7, I'm giving 1. That means even if your activity is less than 7 or 6, it will still be considered in the data set. If you want to be more strict, you can say that minus infinity to 5.05 and 5 to 7.0.5 if you want to be more realistic. That also can be done. Now, if I change the importance level, you could see the score is increasing for the one which is not going to satisfy my rule where the activity should be greater than 7. So that more compounds are coming into the consideration. But if I give more importance to this property, then only few structures are getting considered. So this is what I was telling you, prioritizing which is the property which will again help you to avoid missed opportunities. Similarly, going to HERG, that is the cardiotoxicity. So here I said anything having greater than 5 is going to be cardiotoxic. So I will give a less score of 0.6. Anything up to 5 is acceptable, so we can consider them for our hit triaging. This process is called hit triaging. But if I give the more importance, if I'm giving more importance to the particular structure, then the score that is assigned for any compound having higher cardiotoxicity will be very stringent. We don't consider any compounds which is greater than 5. But when you reduce the importance level, then more compounds will be considered. So this is the way that the answer for the earlier question which I asked in the morning session, when you have 10 different experiments, so consider these are the 10 different experiment data. Considering all of them, how do you rank the best 2 or 5 molecules? That was a question, right? So based on this scoring pattern, we can build the score from 0 to 1. Now imagine you are saying that, sir, I'm not an expert to do all these things. I don't have patience to read the papers. What you can do then, you can build a profile. The software itself will be able to generate what could be the optimum desired value as well as the importance level based again upon machine learning based approaches. So here we use machine learning based approaches to identify the key properties, which includes experimental as well as predicted, to choose the right one with the probable desired value and importance. That could be also done. But if you don't want to look at, you can manually also do. And then also you can analyze about what is the correlation between the activity data and solubility data, or solubility data with human industrial absorption data. Here you could see there is one compound or few certain compounds not satisfying human industrial absorption, but still considered, right? And then you can also correlate between the affinity, that is biological activity data and industrial absorption data. So this is how it is being categorized. There are 2 compounds which are not going to be industrial absorbable, but still having a very good activity here. So those kinds of statistical analysis could be carried out. Anyone is having some doubts? Okay. Now, before going and looking into this, let us look into a little bit different thing called chemical space. Most of the time, what we imagine is that any structure, for example, how usually we design a virtual screening project, we try to pick up a FDA approved drug or already non-reference compound. We try to search it in an FDA drug data bank or even in PubChem. Based on the similarity, we try to find out all the compounds and then start doing docking, QSAR, all analysis and end up with some structures. But keep in mind that strategy doesn't fit for every objective. The reason is if the structures are similar, doesn't mean that biological activity should be similar. If the structures are similar, The physiochemical or molecular properties will be similar for sure. Even ADME properties also could be similar, but biological activity cannot be similar. The reason is, I don't know how many of you are aware here, racemic mixtures for the exact same compound, R form and S form, the biological activity will be different. So how do you think that the similar structures are going to give you similar biological activity? Never possible. So in that context, clustering is basically based upon the structure similarity. But here we are going to talk about chemical space, something that we can put more information into the structure similarity as well as other data. So let's look into that. So chemical spaces are generated based upon fingerprints, and you will be also able to customize them. So here I'm going to customize by saying that I want to find out based upon my profile or probabilistic scoring from 0 to 1. Anything having the lowest score should be of yellow color. Anything with the highest score with red color. Or even I can think about this particular value. Just a minute. Yeah, the actual biological activity data. The least value is 3.5, that is going to be given yellow color, and the highest value is 8.14 to where I give a red color. And then I'm giving the size completely based upon solubility. Where is aqueous solubility? Based upon the aqueous solubility, I'm going to give the size of my the dots. Lesser the solubility, the size will be less. Higher the solubility, size will be more. Then I'm going to use the symbol completely based upon blood-brain barrier. We don't require, but still, being it's a non-CNS, but still we will consider. So anything of dash, that is a negative blood-brain barrier, anything with the plus, I will make it as plus. So most of them are negative. And then I can give a border saying that I want a black border, mentioning if this one, human intestinal absorption. If there is no human intestinal absorption, then I want a black border. Like that you can give. So let me try to find out where, HIA, human intestinal absorption. If it is negative, I will say white background. But sorry, if it is negative, I'll say black background. If it is positive, I will say white background. Okay, and then close. So here, what is the information that I got from here is that just with this single particular chemical space, I can explain a lot. Let me try to change the color here. Sorry, because the visibility will be an issue for you. Just a second. I'll change the symbol here so that at least it will look nicer. Yeah, now it is better. So what we are trying to understand here, let me pull up a cluster here, which could be the best cluster. Yeah, this cluster. So you can see this particular cluster. Okay, I hope you are able to see the difference in the colors. Even though the structures are slightly similar, but you can see some compound. This compound is having a very bad affinity. This particular compound is having a very bad affinity. The same way, when you come to this compound, this is having a very good affinity. The biological activity is good for this when compared to this particular compound. Even though the structure similarity is there, you could see the solubility is very less for this compound, but solubility for this compound is much more higher. And similarly, if you go through here, you can see the class of the compounds in this region, most of them are having good solubility. But this particular compound is having not that great activity. And this also having closer structure, but the solubility is differing. And similarly, if you go to this another cluster, solubility is very less, very, very less for these structures, right? And when compared to this one. And here, these two structures, for example, these four structures, right? These four structures. These two structures are having human intestinal absorption negative because you can see there is a border black color. The others doesn't have. So like this information can be extracted from the chemical space. So chemical spaces really helps you to do hit triaging and chemotype analysis to understand which kind of scaffold or specific scaffold you have to start working on, right? So that is possible to do with the chemical space. Similarly, when you want to do the scoring, as we already discussed, when I run it, it does the scoring profile. The scores will be from 0 to 1. Any scores which is less than like closer to 0 is said to be not so good compounds. Anything closer to 1 are good compounds. But we have to do some analysis. These are just statistical predictions with values. But with that, what we are going to do? We need to do some analysis. So let's do the first part of analysis. If you have any doubts, ensure that you please ask me. You have to be very, very careful here. Okay, please be attentive. Imagine, based upon the biological activity data, row 731 and row 76, which is having the values 8.142. Let me see whether I have sorted based upon this. So row 731 and row 3 are my best active, biologically active compounds, which is having 8.142 and 8.011. And their score value, that is a probabilistic multi-parameter optimization score value, is 0.828 and 0.13. So based upon the biological activity, my best hit molecules are these two, row 731 and row 3. Now, based upon the score, let me try to sort them because I wanted to see which one is having the highest score from 0 to 1. So I'm clicking the right button, sort, and saying descending. When I said descending, you could see the highest score, what I could achieve from this data set is 0.41. Even though 1 is a maximum, but I could get only 0.41 as my maximum score. And I could see the biological activity is 7.52, right? My data now here it is 7.52. Let us see what happened to our best biologically active compound. I think it's somewhere here. It's here. Row 731, 8.142. Unfortunately, it has gone to 20th rank. And the score here is only 0.2862. Let's do an analysis. Why, even though it is biologically very active, why this compound was not able to give a better score statistically? You should also keep in mind in the scoring, the most important one is my biological activity also. Even though this had a better biological activity, still it was ranked 20th. And the next important is my solubility criteria, aqueous solubility, then Lochte and Herg. Going back to the structure, let me look at the solubility criteria because this is my second highest priority or the important criteria. When I'm looking at the aqueous solubility, for this structure, it is 3.79. And for the Herg, it is 5.622. So keep that in mind. These are the two values, 3.7, 5.6. Now let's go back to the one which the software has said this would be the optimal compound to move forward because it is having a score of 0.41. Let us analyze why software has said this one is best. Because the solubility is higher for this molecule, which is having 4.18. The earlier one had, I think, 3.7. And the cardiotoxicity for the best biological active compound was 5.6. But now for this compound, it is 4.55. The cardiotoxicity is less. So even though your biological active is very high and cardiotoxicity is also high, the software did not say that it is a bad compound. Never. It's still considered, but the priority was gone down. And this is why I was telling you in the morning, when you're doing that funneling type, like first you do one experiment, then you do next experiment, you end up with these problems. So Don't think that just with bioassay we can claim that we came up with a lead molecule. No, never, ever. Or just doing a docking analysis, we ended up with a lead molecule. No. And don't make decisions on just doing docking analysis. You need much, much more extensive analysis to confirm which compound you have to synthesize and which compound you have to work on in order to based upon the in silico studies. Based upon the in silico studies. So this ultimately gives you an understanding that let's do a further analysis. Now, if you ask me, the difference between 7.5 and 8.1 is a difference of 0.6. Who knows that this 0.6 is the error value also? We don't know, right? So this compound also could be considered. We never say no, because we also kept the desired value should be greater than 7. Any compound greater than 7 is acceptable, right? So we cannot deny that this compound is a moderately active or anything. This is optimally good molecule because it is also satisfying other pharmacokinetic or ADME properties. Any doubts regarding this so far? I'll wait for 1 minute if you have any doubts. Yes. Sucharita madam, I'm going to that point in my next, yes. Any others have any clarifications? See, let me be very honest with you. Once the participants are interactive only, we get motivated to teach more, much more interestingly. If you are not active, we feel, okay, how soon I can finish the session? That's all we look at, right? I mean, everybody, we are all teachers, right? So we all understand the same point of view. So if you are very interactive, I'll be also very much motivated. Okay, nice. Great. So let me answer to the question what Sucharita madam asked. So the question here was, do we need to look on bioactivity or just cardiotoxicity? And if in that case, how to get to a compound of our interest? Again, we have to do further analysis. Let me show you that. We have something called a snake plot. Snake plot, what we are trying to do here is, we wanted to have compounds all in x-axis, which is from 0 to 124. Each lines are x-axis or the compounds. On the y-axis, we have the probabilistic scoring from 0 to 1. So 0 to 1 is a score. Higher the score, that we expect the compounds are good. Lower the score, we expect the compounds are not acceptable. Now in this C, we are not very ambitious here. We did not get anything even greater than 0.5 also, because the compounds were not actually appropriate for this data set, but at least from which what we have, we are trying to see which is best fits into the data set. Now, what we can say here is very confidently, I'm saying that I'm going to remove these sets of molecules out from my data set because the scores are very less. If the scores are very less, not only biological activity, many of the ADME properties are also not satisfying. So why should I keep those molecules in my data set? And keep in mind, very interestingly, this is what I was telling you, just on docking studies, don't make decisions. Let me show you that. Still the rule is same. Wherever you see the size, larger size is having better solubility. Wherever you see dark red color, that means the biological activity is also good. Wherever you see yellow color, the biological activity is very, very, very low. And that is satisfying here. Here, the biological activity is less. You can throw them away. But there are some certain compounds, still, the biological activity is really good, but the ADME properties are very bad. And that is the reason why they are in the having the lowest score. So the lowest score does mean that they're not acceptable as a lead molecule, right? So this is what I was trying to tell you. Just using bioassay data, don't make decisions. So here you can see this. This compound is biologically very good active, and this this molecule very biologically active. This one too very much red, dark red, biologically active, but they don't have any better score just because ADME properties are not satisfying. So here I'm very much confident to remove all these compounds from my data set, which I'm not going to consider for my next step of studies, because I clearly gone through it and understood that certain properties are lacking, which in need I have to consider them as a lead molecule. But when I want to choose the best molecule, I already answered this question earlier. We don't end up with one or two molecules. We end up with a group of molecules to say, these are the set of molecules which I'm going to consider. And hereafter, when you're going for proposals or anything, ask for 50 compound wet lab studies. Let them give you for 10 compounds. Fair enough. Don't ask for one or two compounds, which is not going to be enough for drug discovery projects. Let it be for any objective. That's very important. I am working in the area of aging and longevity. We did design some compounds, synthesized it, and we didn't go for testing because of the funding issue. Because we want to carry out the same compound 3 times experiment. One time experiment cost is 1.2 lakhs for the assay. I'm talking about the assay. So 3 times I have to repeat, and I have to do it for 10 different compounds. So when I applied for funding agencies, they are saying, why should you do this many testing? So that is what we are looking at. But ultimately, yeah, we have to balance and see how far we can get that out of it. Now, here we did only ADME property analysis and biological activity. There are much more data analysis has to be done, right? So let's keep these compounds as our best choices, the first 20 or 30 molecules as our best choices, right? Now, let's go to few other analysis. For example, carcinogenicity. I have predicted based upon clinical data for this particular compound. Let me go and choose the best molecule which was suggested based upon the analysis. So here it is saying this particular region is carcinogenic. That is going to be bad. Okay, but other regions are absolutely fine. Now we want to know based on what this software is predicting this is carcinogenic. Let's go to this analysis. So here I will just create a report. So here it is clearly mentioning it is based upon where is carcinogenicity? Carcinogenicity is plausible because it is based upon resorcinol or 3-aminophenol. This particular group is present in my compound. That's why it is said it is carcinogenic. And sorry. And even this compound is also thyroid toxic also, because again the presence of resorcinol 3-amino phenol. But if you go for HERG, cardiotoxicity, which we already know this is having cardiotoxicity, right? To some extent. This is because the HERG pharmacophore is present. So already HERG pharmacophores were being defined. So that HERG pharmacophore is present in this compound. That's why it is being said why this compound is cardiotoxic. So for each prediction, it is giving a reason why it has been said it is carcinogenic. So this is the validation or justification you require when you go for in silico studies. Not simply looking at numbers, you shouldn't believe something. You need to have some back references. Now, going to the 20th molecule, which is our biologically active, best biologically active molecule. Let us go through this report also to see how far these compounds in the toxicity side. The HERG is equivocal here, right? Not plausible. Skin sensitization is plausible again, and mutagenicity is inactive because most of the structures are just the derivatives. Just the derivatives. Okay. Now, what we wanted to do now, we want to come out with this carcinogenicity. So let's do an exercise now. I wanted to do a kind of bioisostere replacement or medicinal transformation. There are two things. Bioisostere replacement is something different and medicinal transformation is something different. We will try to do that. So let me look at once again, which is the region. Yes, I got that region. So here in this structure, I'm going to do chemistry transformation. So we have different things. We have something called molecular matched series analysis, reaction-based library enumeration, and scaffold-based library enumeration. These are all for medicinal chemist, specifically for medicinal chemist, widely used in pharmaceutical industry where discovery chemistry departments are there. So I will first do the chemistry transformations and click next. Here, now I have to define which region of the compound do not want to be modified. I will say this region I don't want to be modified. This, whatever is highlighted, I want it to be modified. Okay, because the other region I know they don't have any toxicity issue, and it is also good for activity also. I don't want to replace any of them. I'll click next. Now, the software will try to understand what are the possible breakage of bond or what are the possible formation of bonds. So in organic synthesis, we have something called as breaking rules and linking rules. So we cannot simply attach anything on any compound, or we cannot simply remove substitution reactions cannot be done on everything. So we need to look at the reagents and other things, intermediates and others. So based on that rules, they will try to do algorithmic search, and they will tell you. Here you can see 27,775 possible transformation. But now we applied the algorithm to understand what are the possible transformation paths. See, you can see only 111 transformations only possible for the selection that I have made, even though 27,772 transformations are possible by the software. Now let's look at it. So here within the structure, I can transform ester to alkyl, or I can transform guanidine to alkyl. The beauty here is for a synthetic chemist or a pharmaceutical chemist, this is the better part here. Now it is saying that phenol to aminomethyl aniline, that would be good. But how to do the synthesis? Is this being reported earlier? If a person does not have SciFinder access, how do we do that? If you click on manage, you could see some literature references here. In this literature reference, they have clearly mentioned about phenol to aminomethyl aniline, how it is being carried out. So you get a idea about retrosynthesis also, about the transformations. You are transforming only that particular region in your compound to this region. All right. So I'm not selecting just a single one. I'm selecting multiple to see all possible pyranose, and then I want to change from cyclohexane to benzene. So like that, different. Then I click on next. Now it is asking, what are the features that you want to remove from the structures? This is very, very important in silico modeling. Because when you try to do a Markush enumeration or simply come up with fragment-based drug designing, there could be unnecessary toxin compounds will be coming in or fragments will be coming in. It's very important that you don't include them in your fragment-based. If you want to again have justification from where did I get these compounds list, just mouse over on top of the each of them, you will get scientific literature references which tells you which are the compounds that or which are the fragments that shouldn't be used as a drug, right? And then I'm saying that please select, I don't want all the molecules to be generated. I want only molecules which is having less carcinogenicity, because I'm looking for reducing the carcinogenicity of my molecule, right? Which I already know that specific region of resorcinol, that specific region is only responsible for carcinogenicity. So I want to reduce the carcinogenicity. I want the software to come up with the new replacements of transformations. I can give the generations more. It will take time. So I'm just giving only number 1. And then I click next. If I want to give some name, I can give name no carcinoma. Okay. And then I click finish. It will take some few seconds. By the time, do you have any questions? By the way, did you understand so far? For yes, number 1, and for no, 2. If it is no also, don't worry, please feel free so that I can repeat it again in a better way. So feel free to tell that, okay? I don't have any agenda to complete all whatever I have planned. My only agenda is whatever I am covering, you should be able to understand. That's it. Yeah, so it is still doing some calculation. So it was able to find out around 106 compounds. So let's see. Because after generating the structures, it has to calculate the carcinogenicity also, right? So for each structures, it has to generate, and then it will report us the best molecule which is having less carcinogenicity. So this is called the medicinal transformations. Now, all these medicinal transformations are 100% synthesizable, right? So this is what you call it as optimization. So this is exactly what I was trying to tell you in the morning. I picked up an active molecule, which I already know it is biologically active, but it is also carcinogenic. So now I wanted to see whether without affecting the activity, can I minimize the carcinogens? That's what we are trying to do now. So in the morning question, A or B, I'm working on A now. Sucharita madam, both are acceptable. But first, we always have to work on a compound which is very highly active. The reason is ultimately our aim is the good affinity towards our target. If that is not there, having all the other parameters is of no use actually, right? So first we have to look at the biological activity, whether it is inhibition or whether it is activation, antagonist or agonist, both sides. So you have to first ensure that your compound is very good active. Whatever that is coming along with it, like solubility is less, toxicity or absorption is very less, all the other things you will be able to optimize it, right? But activity is always the important one. Now, we got some structures. Let us analyze them now. Great. I got many compounds which is having no carcinogenicity. That's the beauty here. So let us do a little bit more closer look. There's no carcinogenicity here. This compound, no. I just changed only this region, okay? Keep that in mind. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Let me do that again. I made only changes to this region, wherever I have selected, okay? Only this highlighted white region only I managed to change. Rest of the region is untouched. And I was able to achieve these are not yet reported as carcinogenic. All the replacements, whatever we came. But I still found some of them are carcinogenic. But we still have many compounds which are non-carcinogenic. Right? These compounds are all carcinogenic, but still they predicted it. That's what. So it is not that they're very strict to the rule, but they will give us many of the non-carcinogenic. Now let us see how to get into this more details. So this is a methyl addition to benzene that reduce the carcinogenicity. See, very simple, right? Removal of hydroxyl group also removed carcinogenicity. Hydroxyl addition is also lead to benzene is also reducing carcinogenicity. And then phenyl to 3-pyridine also reduce carcinogenicity. So this is what which will give you an idea about how the replacements are going to help you to improve the toxicity data. And here phenol to N-acyclo ethyl carbamate. Yeah. So ethyl carbamate. And here we have the literature references also. For the simple transformation, there won't be literature references, but if something complicated, yes, you do have the literature references also. So this way you will come up with more ideation. This way you will get to know more understanding about what data or what kind of derivatives you have to work on. Now let us look at a little more different data now. Just a second. No carbon. Okay. Yeah, I'm back to the data. So now I wanted to look at the P450 pro-drug strategy, whether I have to take my drug in a pro-drug strategy or not. For that, we will do a P450 analysis. I don't know. I hope everybody knows Professor Bharatam, Prasad Bharatam from NIPER Mohali. He's the head of the pharmacoinformatics department. So he has also worked on a lot on the prediction of P450 isoforms using molecules. So similar methods are being used here, quantum chemical methods are being used here. What it tries to say here is, when you go to 3A4 isoform of your compound, of P450, cytochrome P450 of liver metabolism, it is trying to tell you that this particular carbon is very unstable. That carbon might break and form a 2-methyl keto group. That is not good, because when you did your animal studies or in vitro studies, bioassay studies or docking studies, the full structure was there. When this particular portion is going off or forming a metabolite, then when it reaches the target, it doesn't reach and have the actual affinity that was expected. So you have to make sure that your drug is stable, metabolically stable, intact, so that it don't break down. Similarly, this nitrogen is also breaking down. To me, if you ask me, this nitrogen should also break down. That is also unstable. But again, it's prediction, right? How can we expect 100% accuracy there? If I am a person of saying this is the best software in this world, I wouldn't have told you this, right? So we have to put in our expertise also, but softwares will be able to give you a lot of information to make decisions. So don't completely believe on softwares. Let it be any software. Let it be 100 billion word software also. You have to put your expertise into it so that it will make wonders. Now, this carbon is something that is very unstable. So let us look at the other ratio. So it is saying around 91% this breakage could happen. The metabolite could form. And there is another one is also the carbon 7. You could see it is like splitting the compound into big 2 pieces, metabolites, and they're moderately unstable. Similarly, it will tell you all the possible atomic positions where they are unstable, right? This is being looked at each different isoforms also. So at different isoforms, you can see each of the atom stability is different for each one of them. So it will also tell you about the selectivity also. So your compound is very much selective to 3A isoform of P450. I hope pharmacologists will be much more understanding about what I'm trying to tell now. Right? Now, let's get into the 3D format. So how one can understand how the 3D docking studies is going to help you with this. So let me try to generate surface. Just a second. So this is the compound which is having different bioactive conformations. So when you're performing docking, we are trying to identify the bioactive conformation. And you can see this, the interaction that is taking place with certain amino acids, as well as it is having a water bridge, which is also coming up, right? So let me try if I can generate the surface. Display option. I will enable the surface for protein so that you will be able to see that. Yes. And I will color based upon log P and close. So here you can see, now we are going to do an exercise here, right? All the chemists in the audience. So I have a co-crystal ligand here already, right? And also I have another compound which is here. This one is another compound, this is another compound. Both are different compounds. By looking at this 3D picture of the pocket, where do you think that you can make some derivatives or some analogs of this compound? The chemistry. You have to unfortunately unmute and speak because typing on the chat won't be practical here. Where do you think where you can make modifications? No answers? Oh my God, then no use of for me spending from morning till now to help you with understanding these techniques. So my question is, especially to the chemist, where do you think that where you could make derivatives or analogs of these compounds, any one of them, by seeing this docking result? Any idea? So morning, there many where they're telling me you're all pharmaceutical chemistry from. So if at least one comes in, it would be nice. Oh, did you understand my question or not? Sorry if you didn't understand. Dotted areas. Where dotted area? I don't find any dotted areas. Sorry. Let me repeat the question. The structure is same. My question is, this structure is already patented. I cannot work on this structure, right? I wanted to make modifications to this structure. So my question was, by looking at this 3D poses of the docked structure in the pocket, where in which part of your of these compounds do you think that you can add an analog, or you could think of a derivative or something like that? That's what I was asking. Which region? So Satya madam said that dotted area, but I don't understand. See, these dotted lines are the interactions which is happening with the structure. So the compound is having some interaction with the dotted line, tells you that the compound is having interaction with your amino acids. So there we cannot make any replacements. If you make the replacement, the interactions go off. Okay, one answer is we could try to concentrate on zones, the areas with better log P values. Okay. Thinking of aryl groups on benzene meta position. Yeah, now things are coming up. Okay, benzene meta positions. Okay, then so now few of you told me some ideas. Really good. Now, can you tell me why did you say that? For example, benzene ring or benzene meta position. Can you tell me the reason why did you choose that? Or someone said aryl groups. Why? There will be only questions in why in science. Then only you can find answers. So aryl groups, it's because of hydrophobic interaction. Now you said hydrophobic interaction, but how do you know that there is hydrophobic possibilities in that region? This is an exercise. We are doing a live exercise. This is how we have to discuss, make use of docking results. Just getting the numbers, no use of docking data. See, if you want to publish in ACS, very good journal. I'm not talking about impact factor, okay? I don't care about impact factor. So how many of you have published in ACS journals? Not Omega, others. ACS journals. Are there many published in ACS journals? For example, Journal of Medicinal Chemistry, JCIM, organic chemistry, medicinal chemistry letters, BOC. Anyone? No. Okay. So when you're publishing there, they expect these kinds of interpretations. If you just give the numbers, they will say your results are skeptical or hypothetical. Try to aim rich, aim high. Let us end up with something that is okay, but try to do your best what you can deliver. Later it will come automatically. But if you say, sir, I'm not an expert there, I'm not doing so advanced. The question is when you will do then. We have to start from yesterday. It is already late, right? So keep that in mind. Now, another few interesting answers came in. Very nice. I can see that. Functional group addition, and also look into empty spaces in the binding pocket where I can very good. That is absolutely right. So as you all said, what can be replaced, you said, like aryl groups or concentrating on benzene ring or meta positions or hydrophobic or log P, all those things. But my question was where you are going to concentrate, or which are the locations that you can make transient. That is actually the empty spaces, which is called as unoccupied spaces or in the pocket, because we wanted to stick on to this compound. We know this compound is very active, but we want to work on this compound to see whether we can override some side effects or some toxicity or some other physiochemical property issues or ADME property issue. Keeping in mind, activity shouldn't be compromised. That's why we are trying to work on this. This is a specific objective, right? Not the same for everybody when you're working on. So you have to see where are the empty spaces available. I can see some empty spaces available here, right? I could see here this place also I have an empty space available. Simply don't put long and lengthy rings and all, because that will be again an issue, because it might not interact with whatever interactions that you're expecting to. And then inside the cleft, that is also we have something interesting. If I go inside this cleft, see, being it's a 3D picture, we can easily get inside. See, there is a hydroxyl group interacting with the water ash. So you can think of some replacements there. So instead of water, it might interact with the amino acid directly also. And there is also a lipophilicity is also there. So you could think of those empty spaces. And you could also see there is an empty space here. I don't know how many of you have noticed it. Yeah. See, this is also an empty space in this region. So that's what one of the participant also said about the para position of the benzene. And sorry, meta position of the benzene. So like that, this is what we have to look into it. So this is how you reduce the communication gap between a modeler. So for example, here also you see there is a cleft empty spaces available here, right? So you cannot simply design a molecule based upon the literature and then come and ask, can you do docking for me? No, it might not fit in sometimes. So you have to have a thorough understanding. First to do a rationally. First to do some standard molecule analysis. Based on that, you design molecules. Don't simply design from scratch based on the literature. No, I know we have been doing and we have been successful earlier days, but now it is too much competitive. So we have to be very sure we are doing using the right strategy. Very important. Strategy should be very important. So then we make those modifications and then try to dock again. And after docking, we have to find out if that the affinity has increased or is there is any enrichment when compared to the existing standard molecule. And that's how we make it. And if you're asking me for QSAR, so these are the QSAR data. We can always look at each of these data and its correlations. So here we use machine learning based methods like Gaussian process regression method. Everybody's favorite method is something called as linear regression method. But linear regression method has issues on overfitting issues. So in order to avoid that, we use machine learning methods like Gaussian process regression and random forest methods. Another, okay. Will the amino acid present in the empty space will be responsible for the making of derivatives in the nucleus? I couldn't understand that question, but let me imagine. So, see, when you're having, when you're doing some interaction studies, it is not only about score and affinity, which I already mentioned. It is also important to which amino acid you should have interaction. Very, very important. I mean, the top priority is that. If your compound is not interacting with the key amino acid, it does not have any value, even if it is having the best docking affinity or score. So the amino acid is very important. So if the amino acid key interactions are happening even after making the derivatives, well and good. But after making the derivatives, if that interactions are not happening, it's not acceptable, even though it is synthesizable. Carboxylic acid is in a meta direction because it experiences resonance or delocalization of electrons. Yeah, clear. I understand that. Yes, that is also possible. That's where I said, don't think that every empty spaces you can add in. You have to clearly look into what is on the opposite side. The opposite side is your amino acid and the certain atoms. So let me show you that. Let me switch off just a second. Yeah, this should give you a little more idea. Let me switch off the surface. Yeah. So here, when you do analysis, you can see some green balls surrounding the atoms. The green balls are trying to tell you whether that particular atom is highly contributing to your affinity or interaction. Now, tomorrow, when you're making some, let me zoom. Yeah, tomorrow, when you're making some changes, where can I see some interaction with amino acids? Just a second. Yeah. Let me label it so that it will be easy for you. Okay. I'm not able to label it. I don't know. Yeah. So in this particular amino acid, 93rd amino acid, on the oxygen, it is the my ligand is having an interaction. So tomorrow, if you're making a derivative, if you're losing this interaction, which is a key interaction, which is if I have an interaction with aspartic acid, then only there will be upregulation or downregulation of the mechanism. If the mechanism is, if that interaction is not happening, there is no point of making new derivatives also. So doesn't mean that all empty spaces has to be filled with derivatives. No, you have to also make sure that it is also having key interactions with the certain amino acids which we are looking at. That is also important, of course. And here you can see this interaction is with the phenylalanine 138 with the hydrogen. So similarly, the interactions are also very important when you make derivatives. So keep in mind, one, the key amino acid interactions. Second, its affinity. It's also important to choose which compound is optimal for your binding affinity studies. As each particles are in motion, so will the QSL can give the exact idea for the derivative synthesis? Yes, Pranab, that is a good question. See, when you're making derivatives or optimizing the compounds, you have to generate the bioactive conformation, right? So you have to do a redocking. If you have a protein, you have to do a docking and find out which is the optimal bioactive conformation which satisfies all these interactions with the key amino acids. Take that compound and then calculate the descriptors to generate the QSAR model or to predict the activity values of the existing QSAR model, because descriptor is the key thing in QSAR. The descriptor values will change as there is change in the 3D geometry of the structure. So if you're able to take a bioactive conformation, then it is reliable. Now, regarding the synthesis, let me show you an example. Now, if I made some modifications, okay, and then as I told you, I can use the synthesis retrosynthetic pathway analyzer. So it will be able to, okay, some issue. It will be able to predict the pathway actually. So let me try again. Because this goes to internet and then try to, yeah, there is some issue with with my server. So we have to set with username and password, and also if the API doesn't work, then there will be issue. Okay, there is again some issue. I showed you this in the morning in a slide actually. Yeah, so that way you will be able to find out whether these derivatives are synthesizable or not. So these are the two ways you will get an idea. Um, okay, so for molecular dynamics, let me give you an example. In the morning, I had given you a link. So for molecular dynamics, don't pay a single penny for any software, because for molecular dynamics, all the softwares for academics is completely free, including NAMD, then Desmond, then Gromax, Amber Tools, Charmum Command Line. They're all absolutely free for academics for molecular dynamics. So I have been doing a series of molecular dynamics tutorial in order to calculate, which one is that? This one. In order to calculate the binding affinity between ligand and the protein. So already three parts are there, so two or more are coming. So it will be able to calculate the binding energy in kilocal per mole for the protein and the ligand complex molecular dynamic simulation. Keep in mind, this calculations are a bit lengthy. It will take long time also, so be prepared for that. So until unless you report molecular dynamics data for docking studies, hereafter publications also will be very, very difficult, because most of them do not accept just molecular docking studies data alone. So this is already available. So these, using these free tools, you will be able to do that. I will share the link here so that if you are interested, you can follow. So I have used GROMAX as well as NAMD. Both the packages are being used for molecular dynamic simulations. Okay, so that's all from me for today. I could also tell you one more thing. Yeah, if many of you are working on herbal plants or natural products, if you want your compound to be choose to find out the hit target, for example, you want to see whether is there any co-crystal ligand similar to your natural product to find out the hit, in order to look whether that target is possible or not. You can go to find similar compounds from PDB. So it will try to search the compounds from protein data bank with the 0.7 similarity, and it will try to tell you what are the possible PDB IDs. Yeah, I think all my APIs are having some issues. It's not working well. So this way, it will be also easy for you to identify the hit for your natural products. And another question is here, which kind of interactions you will prefer, because van der Waal interactions would be spontaneous, covalent and four bond interactions. Covalent bond is good, yes. CSAR is a software which helps in covalent bonding. Docking also, covalent docking also is supported there, but you cannot expect covalent docking everywhere, because it's not a straightforward click a button function. So you have to define the R group in your ligand, and you also have to define which is the group in your amino acid. And when you define that, then only the software will be able to identify whether that can form a covalent docking or not. And keep in mind, the hydrogen bonds are weak bonds anyway, ultimately. But we still require hydrogen bonds in order to hold the ligand tightly into the pocket. So I don't say always covalent, but if you have covalent docking facility, then that is what. And if you know what you are trying to do, then only do covalent docking, because you need to define the atom where it is going to form the covalent bond. And hydrophobic, van der Waals, electrostatic, non-bonded interaction, they are also important, because that also comes into the dynamics of for considering the energy and stability of the complex. So they are also important. But if you ask me the most important, yes, covalent as well as hydrogen bonding will be important. Yes. Any other questions? Any other specific questions you have? No questions? Yeah, all the materials are, I have already shared the links in the morning, so you will be able to get all the data from there. I hope it will be useful for you. Like that, plenty of the other materials also available in the internet. So it's not that only my data is available. There are plenty of data available. So, yeah. Okay, another question came in. Okay. What is that question is about? Can covalent bond will be a factor for toxicity? Depends, because when it forms the covalent bond, the structure composition is going to change. Yes, it should be also looked into, mostly on a knowledge-based analysis. Activity, yes, completely depend upon the amino acid binding. Not simply amino acid binding, the right and the key amino acid binding, very important. How many bonds are required to elicit pharmacological action? Dr. Ramesh, it's nothing like that, bonds or how many interactions. That is where we have to look at the mechanism. If for example, if I'm working, we are working on a fungal studies, we found that the compound should have interaction with serine, and also it should have interaction with the calcium 2+ ion. If there are interactions with these two, then the inhibition takes place. But certain compounds does not have interaction with serine, but it has interaction with many other compounds. I mean, many other amino acids. Even though the binding affinity is better, that we did not take those compounds, because our aim is that to inhibit that particular function. In order to inhibit that function, we need to have interaction with serine. If serine is not coming into the interaction vicinity, we are not going to consider that. So that's how things has to be evaluated when you try to look at interaction studies. Most of the time that does not happen. That's why we are not able to replicate our docking studies to wetland studies. Okay, is there any other module that can be used to generate analogs of known compound or derivatives of compound? I told you, NOVA, in NOVA, I was showing you the chemistry transformation, bioisosphere. Then you can do scaffold hopping, 3D based fragment. Since there is no time, I'm not showing it. There is something called CSAR, CSAR software. So there you can do a docking based replacements of derivatives. You can do that within the pocket itself based on pharmacophore screening. You can do that. You cannot file a patent through docking reports. No, you have to synthesize it and ensure that it is a novel. Then you can patent the molecule. One, if it is a process, yes, the synthetic route, if it is novel, you can patent it. If it is really novel, yes, you can, but not the docking results cannot be patented. And unfortunately, even docking results cannot be published in a good journal also if it is not well validated also. So that is a challenge now we are going to face. Anything else? You have my contact details here with email address, and also I'm very active in Twitter with all my research and related news. Not active in Facebook or anything, but very much active in Twitter to talk about whatever I do regarding consensus docking. I do develop certain software platforms and other. They're all absolutely free. So those most of the time I report in Twitter. Right. So if you have any other questions, I'm happy to take. Otherwise, I'm done for the day. So only take home message here is that you might have listened a lot of things today. Maybe 90% you didn't understand, 10% you could have understood, or even not that, not even that. But if you try to read certain reviews, don't read papers. Please don't read papers to learn or to understand about these techniques. Only read reviews. When you read reviews, you will be able to understand how not to do, how to do, and why to do. Why is very important in all these analysis. Until unless you ask this question, why did I get this docking score? Why did I get this activity? Why did I get this error? You cannot find the reason behind it, the reliability of the data. And even for your experimental studies also, ensure that you ask why. Why did I get this? Why not the others? Abdul Rahman, which software be helpful to publish in Impact Journal? I told this in the morning also. Don't ever think that only paid softwares will get you into a good publication. Never, ever. If some reviewer is asking you, why didn't you use this software which is paid for your publication? Tell them, why are you promoting this paid software? Ask the same question to them. Don't ask anything else. Why are you promoting them? I'm using open source or some other software which is available to me. Why are you asking this? Because every software is good, every software is bad. The how you are going to interpret it is important. If the reviewer is having special interest on a specific paid software, no, I deny that. I'm a reviewer to ACS, Willy, and Elsevier journals and all. I've seen people publishing with paid as well as free. Even for paid, also they made a lot of mistakes, and 3, 4 revisions have gone ultimately because they really don't understand. They just put the numbers which came out of the software. That's it. But it is way beyond that. You have to make sure that you understand what is the interpreting capability, whether you're getting a number, what that number refers to, if there is no interaction, if there is an interaction happening, what it is refers to. All those things you should have a better understanding. Based on that, you have to write your discussion. It is not materialistic to software. But when you're coming to like equipments, right? For example, GCLC or X-ray, the error value or the accuracy value of the equipment is very important. There it matters which company's equipment you use, because your value of the equipment itself depends upon the less number in the error value. But coming to software, all are same, all are different. It's only the way how you are taking the objectives and the data. Dr. Kamaldeep Singh Mehta, you can email me. Absolutely, yes. We could check it out. Based on my timings, I will reply to you. And Sailendra Mahanta, as you asked me for the open source Windows-based MD simulation, that's exactly what I've given you the link. So I have used NAMD software which works in Windows. Yes, that's the only software which works in Windows for MD simulation. So I have already given you that information. Yeah. Thank you so much for all your feedback anyway. I will accept your thanks wholeheartedly when you apply this somewhere, and tomorrow when I see some good publications coming out from all the participants who are here today. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Thank you so very much for your again wonderful presentation, and truly you nailed with your presentation. And we are honored to listen your knowledge and expertise in the area of computational chemistry on this platform. So really, honestly, I thank very much because you made it very active, and I hope you can see all the feedback, a very positive feedback we are getting from all the participants too. So hope they have also had a good and very useful session on this day.
Thank you, madam. So everyone, please stay safe. I hope you and your family all are keeping safe in this time. Thank you so much.
Sir, yes, definitely we can't price your knowledge and expertise in the area of computational chemistry.
We are everybody learning. Everyone is learning every day. Only thing we have to make use of this lockdown and learn more. That's all.
Yes. So from our management and principal side, kindly accept this token of honor and virtually, and in a couple of days we'll be posting you to sir.
Thank you so much, madam. Thank you so much.
So kindly accept this and
Thank you.
yeah, yes, sir. Thank you so much. And the participants are requested to post the queries to sir. And sir, I have a small question. If the participants are very much interested to subscribe the StarDrop, or if they want to work on the StarDrop, what kind of provision can you be given for all the delegates?
So what we can do is, since I have already given a training session on the StarDrop, we can give a training license for all of them. So I can arrange a download and also licenses so that they can install it in their computer and try it out. But I will also give a tutorial handouts so they can, whoever is interested. Simply taking and keeping an install in the computer doesn't make sense. It will lose your space of your computer because it will work only for a few weeks. So whoever feels it's really useful and you want to apply something on a project and then you want to try to do a testing and all, feel free to do that. Only thing we want to know is that to whom all you have given. So we want to know the contact details, especially email address, which institution and the name. That is very mandatory to give the licenses. Yes, we can do that.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you for providing this provision. And all the respected faculty members are informed to just send your details of mobile number, name, and the college name, all those details, mail ID, everything to me personally in WhatsApp, or
Yes.
you can mail to me by mail, so that the same will be directed to the Girinaj sir, and the server will be sending you all the licenses. Or personally, you can contact Girinaj sir for all those subscriptions and details.
Yes.
So that we can better use of this expertise, and still tomorrow maybe one of us will stand in a position of a speaker.
And also keep in mind, this is not a promotion presentation because I was more concentrating on what not to do in drug discovery research in the morning sessions. Only to prove that I used a tool as StarDrop. You can use any tool, but we are happy to give you the access to that particular tool. Now you are using different other tool. You have a favorite another tool, but ensure morning whatever conditions and the rules and regulations I told you, try to follow it. That is very important. That's all. Yeah.
Yep, sir. I think we have came to the closing of the session 2 of this today event. And thank you so much for joining once again and for your best contribution to the South Coast College of Pharmacy. So once again.
Bye. Bye. Have a great day. Thank you.
Yeah, please stay safe and take care of yourself.
Thank you, sir. Bye. Bye.
Thank you, sir. And dear delegates, requesting everyone to join for the sessions prior 10 minutes. And tomorrow by 9 a.m. we are going to start the session. And the first session is by Dr. Arpana Parikar ma'am. She's a professor and also DST woman scientist. So kindly attend the session at prior of 8:50 a.m. and your attendance and the percentage of marks in the end test is mandatory to issue the e-certificate. So kindly utilize this opportunity for igniting your knowledge and also to make yourself as the best. And thank you for joining in this afternoon. And tomorrow we'll be joining at 8:50 a.m. sharp. And regarding the feedback link, the link for this session will be posted in the WhatsApp group. So within 5 minutes, I'll be sharing the link in WhatsApp group. Just have a look on that and you can submit your feedback immediately by today, 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. So we'll be giving you time for the submission of all those feedback forms. And any kind of message or any kind of word you need to tell to the organizers or the management, you just please post in the chat box so that it will be helpful for us to make ourselves best for the tomorrow's program too. And yeah, Dr. S. Satyash, I just noted your details.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I'll do the needful. Thank you so much. And I hope so I didn't receive any kind of messages from chat box too. And see you, dear delegates. Stay safe and see you back in the tomorrow session at 9 a.m. Thank you so much. Bye.